Hello, this is the RPG Crawler, and welcome to Indie Game Friday, where each week I review an independent role-playing game. This week we're going to take a look at one that's part RPG, part strategy, and part exploration. Pixel Privateers. Developed by Quadro Delta and published by Relogic, Pixel Privateers is a sci-fi, squad-based RPG, not to be confused with Pixel Piracy by the same developer. Although admittedly, you would be excused if you did. But more on that later. It was released on Steam on February 21st, 2017, and is currently available for $14.99 US. There's an official soundtrack DLC available for $4.99. Story-wise, you are given command of the crew of a ship and sent through a wormhole to another galaxy, with the goal of gathering unknown items and performing missions that the company then profits from somehow, allowing them to reward you. Once through the wormhole, however, it destabilizes, and you would then have to wander the new galaxy, picking up items, running into events, and generally seeking ways to fix the wormhole. Gameplay theoretically has several different modes, but aside from space exploration and planetary expeditions, most of them boil down to resource and party management. Most of these are accessible through the ship menu screen while aboard the ship, while events in planetary expeditions take place on a 2D side-scrolling map. The different resources available include credits for purchases at the market, fuel for moving the ship around the galaxy, matter for replicating objects, transporting crew members, and cloning crew members, and research points for unlocking technologies and identifying unknown artifacts and rare items. You gain credits through direct drops on planetary expeditions or through selling found items at the market. You gain matter by obtaining matter crates or disintegrating found items. You gain fuel through fuel crystals, and you gain research points by automatically analyzing strange objects found randomly during planetary exploration. Galactic Exploration is done on the Galaxy map, which is a 2D, top-down, sector-based grid. You can move your ship through this grid through a series of jumps that take a certain amount of fuel depending on the distance. During movement, you may uncover various random events, generally different sorts of attacks that result in combat aboard your ship, but also other potentially beneficial events. When you arrive at a grid space, you may launch expeditions to any adjacent planets, or trade with adjacent markets. Trading simply unlocks various interface tabs from the ship menu and doesn't actually involve leaving the vessel. During Galactic Exploration, you can attempt to find missions in an area for various factions you have encountered, and there aren't many at the moment, which generates random mini-quests on planets and marks them on your map with an exclamation mark. Such quests are usually go to a planet and scan the areas, collect objects, or kill a certain number of a type of creature. Pretty straightforward stuff. Planetary expeditions may be launched when you are adjacent to a planet. You select an away team of up to 8 of your mercenaries, which are then beamed down using matter reserves from your ship. Once you reach the surface, you are placed on a 2D side-scrolling, randomly generated map, and may then explore and fight creatures on said map. There are occasionally things that allow interaction, such as buttons and switches, crates that may include additional loot, and NPCs that may trigger side quests beyond those that you acquire on your ship. It's also during surface exploration that the main combat comes in. You may encounter groups of creatures which you can attack with a variety of melee and ranged weapons. Most different crew members have a few different abilities, one passive or auto, and the others all activated. Combat can be done in real time or can be paused to assign different tactics to each crew member. Once a quest has been completed, you are immediately rewarded with a little drone that gives you the option between 3 rewards: more matter, more fuel, or a chest of random items. And herein lies my first serious issue with the game. The planetary exploration makes up such a huge chunk of this game, and even though it's randomly generated, it gets really kind of boring after a relatively short time. And I'm saying that as somebody that loves these sorts of games. Yes, the game has different difficulty settings, and yes, you can actually adjust the difficulty of a particular planet that you come to on the fly if you just want more of a challenge, but it hardly makes a difference. Difficulty does scale, but if you pay even the most minimal attention to your builds, There's only a few combats that might require more than simply rushing forward with your crew and firing away, even at the higher difficulties. And on those, even if you do go into the tactical mode and assign various tasks to your crew, the differences are generally momentary. Yes, it may be enough to swing one particular fight against one particular enemy, which may be enough to change the outcome of a battle, but it's so slow compared to just rushing forward that the vast majority of the time you're probably just going to have your entire away team just rioting forward and shooting everything in their path. Further, these maps aren't all that large and don't have that many branches, so it often feels like proceeding through a single corridor, from pre-packaged room to pre-packaged room. More so than on other roguelikes. I admit that what room designs there are amusing, there just needs to be more of them to provide a little bit more variety. Still, I suppose if all you're looking for is to go from room to room, clearing enemies and grabbing loot, it suffices for a while. During all that combat, you're liable to level up, and this is honestly one of the more interesting parts of the game, at least for me. Back aboard the vessel, you can manage your crew in a few different ways. At many markets, you can hire additional crew members, and when you level up, you're given a few points to assign among their different ability scores. Each of the different classes benefits a little bit differently from each ability score, and what you decide to gear a particular mercenary with determines what ability scores you should favor. In fact, their class is determined by what class items you give them. Giving them things like scouting tools turns them into a scout. Giving them a nano-injector turns them into a doctor, etc. And you can change classes simply by rearranging this gear. There's 5 classes to choose from, and if you balance your team well enough, a lot of their functions will be taken care of almost automatically during play. You can gear each one up with randomized items, armor, and weapons that you discover during your travels, with the usual assortment of random stat-modifying prefixes and suffixes that you may have come to expect from this genre. Now that we're back aboard the ship, it's worth mentioning the technology and research systems. During exploration, you're occasionally going to get items that, when you beam them back aboard, simply go into research. Over time, they are analyzed, given a certain number of research points per second. You can spend these research points to identify artifacts and rare weapons, which slowly unlock over time, or to purchase various technologies to boost each class in different ways. There are a number of different tiers, costing increasing numbers of research points along the scale, and each tier has 6 major technologies, with each major technology having 3 minor ones available. It's a decent way to customize your various class builds without necessarily having to adjust each crew member. There are a few more tabs: the market where you can buy and sell things, the shipyard where you can trade your ship up, etc., etc. But really, the only major section worth mentioning is the ship customization. You can buy larger ships, some of which may have empty customizable rooms, which you can then purchase as modules from the market. This allows some leeway in restructuring your ship, although honestly it mostly matters because of the flat bonuses associated with each different module. Larger ships allow you to hold more crew members on your roster, and you can mount various defensive turrets to help defend the ship during invasions, although you'll probably still end up taking care of most of that combat yourself. So that's your basic overview of the gameplay. I've missed a few things here and there, but it's really the majority of the important sections that I've covered. So how did the music and the graphics stand up? Well, I did like the music. It's very pleasant background music, but I'm just not sure if it's really outstanding enough to justify the soundtrack DLC purchase. Graphically, it uses a pixel styling as benefiting from the name, although in a thoroughly modern look rather than going for anything that looks retro. The problem I have is that the game itself still seems poorly optimized. You may encounter performance issues. Generally not enough to really impact gameplay most of the time, but I could see where a few people might have problems. Furthermore, there's a number of bugs throughout the game. Most of the ones I encountered were minor glitches at best, but a number of people have identified game breakers. And herein is my second issue with the game. For a full release, it still needs a lot of work. Granted, they are in active development, and in fact published a patch almost immediately after I grabbed the footage for this review, which supposedly addresses a few of the bugs and balance issues. I'm not sure from reading the patch notes that this will solve some of the underlying design issues, but we'll see. Honestly, if this was an early access game, I'd have less issue with some of the points that I've mentioned. But it's not. Of more import is that these are the same developers that basically abandoned Pixel Piracy, their previous game, dead in the water. So the real question is, how long will these updates and tweaks continue to come out? Reputation matters, and a number of indie game devs now are beginning to get reputations for simply abandoning promising projects just to start new ones willy-nilly. So, Quadro Delta, are you going to redeem yourself on this game? Is it worth $14.99? At the moment, I gotta say no. It could be, providing that work continues apace and the game becomes more fleshed out, but as it stands for a full release, I have to say that I can't in good conscience suggest it at the price that it's listed at for most people. Hell, if it's right up your alley, then that may be cool, but for me, I think I'd suggest waiting for a Steam sale or a bundle. It is a fun game for a while, but it seems to need a little bit more time in the oven, so to speak. And I'll leave it at that. The links are in the description below. This has been the RPG Crawler with Indie Game Friday Pixel Privateers. If you like what you've seen, leave a like, comment if you've got feedback, and subscribe for more RPG content. Until next time, take care and goodbye.